Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Afternoon Tune. I'm your host, Josh, and with me is my co-host here.
Dusk, how you doing?
And today, Nick couldn't be here today, so he's just out today. But he's hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna be doing some stuff tomorrow, so hopefully he'll be back for that. But today we're gonna be doing House of Gucci. House of Gucci. We're gonna be doing Cowboy Bebop, the live action show that's on Netflix. We're also gonna be doing Hawkeye, the TV series. So that dropped 2 episodes. Going to be discussing that, dealing with that. So yeah, so it's kind of a kind of a short little agenda today. No real big news that really came out, unless you just wanted to talk about really Scott shit talking Marvel movies. But that's I don't think all that relevant. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Dusk, how's it going with you?
It's going all right. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, wrapping up with some classes. Got my final grade for one of my classes. It was a C plus. You know what I mean? I was kind of like 1 point away from a B, but
Dang.
I think maybe could have rounded that up, but that's okay. But yeah, that's fine. Say C's get degrees, so that's no problem with that. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the only thing. And then work. It's just been work. Getting a raise at work, by the way. So that's happening there. So it's kind of nice there. And preparing to leave for a trip next week. So we won't be doing a show next week, Friday or Saturday, because I got to leave for something. I'm going to be going out of town, so I'm going to be doing a show next week. Do you know what comes out next week by any chance?
I actually do not.
Okay. I don't know currently what is coming out next week currently. But yeah. So yeah, we won't be doing a show next week. We're doing the show the week after that. And yeah. So just to let people know that. Yeah. But yeah, so far, but everything's been good with me, man. Just same old kind of stuff, school, work, typical kind of stuff, and going to see these movies. Was it challenging for you to go see House of Gucci? Because I know a theater is kind of far away from you, pretty much.
It it wasn't as challenging. I was able to find a little bit of time, but uh, yeah, I was just be able to make it. I was able to make it in time this time, but it was kind of a challenge finding just the right movie theater when the times were showing it.
Okay, yeah. So let's delve into it. We're going to be discussing The House of Gucci, which is a movie directed by Ridley Scott, who already came out with a movie this year called The Last
Last
Duel,
duel.
which I liked very much. Thought it was pretty good. That also starred Adam Driver in it.
Yeah.
He's also in this movie as well in House of Gucci. All star cast. You got Jeremy Irons. You got
Mm.
Al Pacino. You have Lady Gaga. You have Jared Leto. Real all star cast of people. You also have Salma Hayek, who's in a supporting role as well. So real stacked cast of people here, with accents that don't all match each other, and we'll get into
Yeah.
that very much. But yeah, and I'd say the look of the movie very beautiful, very good
Mm.
looking movie.
Well,
Very
costume design and design for it was very good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a movie about one of the most powerful fashion, institutions in the world, and Gucci. So it makes sense why that would be very much on point. Of Gucci, the most, one of the most recognizable fashion brands in the entire world. I think they do the whole, at the end of these, because this movie is inspired by a true story, like they said. I think with these biopics, I think they're moving away from before they used to kind of say based on a true story, but now they're going
Yeah,
more for inspired by a true story.
because they can get away with legality by doing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to think. Yeah, because before, usually, in biopics and biographies, movies based on true events, they would always kind of used to say more based on, but now more it's like
Mhm.
it's inspired by. So, like you said, maybe to get away from it's the legalities of things.
Legality in there, it can just basically go completely off the rails. And they said, well, it was inspired by, it didn't actually based on anything.
Yeah. So this is all about the family of Gucci. Kind of the destruction of kind of this family, what led to kind of a little bit their downfall, and involving a lot of kind of greed, murder,
Hmm.
what I mean, deception, what I mean. So it's very very kind of story, and I was really excited for this movie. Watching the trailer for it, seeing the cast,
Hmm.
seeing the director, and really Scott is at this point of his career where sometimes this stuff can be a little hit, a little miss. Like I said, love the last duel a lot. I haven't liked some of his other prior films that came out kind of recently, which was, like stuff like Alien Covenant, the Prometheus movie.
Mm.
But he'll win you back kind of doing something like The Martian. So sometimes his track record, can kind of be sometimes when he hits, but sometimes when he misses. And is this right here, is the House of Gucci, is it a miss or is it a hit? Well, I would say it's kind of in between. I don't think it's not as good as I was expecting it to be. Given the pedigree you have coming into this with the cast, with the
Mm.
director, like you said, looks nice. The costume design is very nice. I think, Jared Leto, as great of an actor as he can be, given some great material like we've seen him be, like in stuff like Dallas Buyers Club, even the movie The Little Things, which was that Denzel Washington, Rami Malek film. Um, I didn't like that film all that much, but I thought he was good in it. And this one, him being kind of, to portray Paolo Gucci, who's kind of
Yeah.
like the loser of the family. Everybody calls him an idiot and stupid.
He's the Freddo.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know what I mean? Everybody, looks down upon him. And it's almost distracting because he's in all this makeup to make him look more like, Paulo Gucci, because Paulo Gucci was kind of a little bit of a heavy setter, more heavy set
Hmm.
guy, and kind of balding, everything like that. So they do all this, extensive makeup to put on Jared Leto to make him look like that. And it's just almost kind of distracting in a way. It doesn't really add anything. And then plus Jared Leto, when it comes to, I think he has one of the worst ones accent wise in the whole
Oh,
thing, because it is feels like such a almost like a skit of the way he's talking like an Italian. It's like nobody ever believed in me. It's very
you need
over.
to do it in a higher pitch, closer to the way the voice actor, I forget who voices Mario and Luigi, closer to what You did it like this. I
Yeah,
don't
more
know
like
why.
this. Yes, nobody ever believed in me, my vision, my dreams. Like that's kind of how he talks, kind of most of it, just with kind of a higher, little, like you said, a little bit with a higher pitch. And he was kind of funny at times, but it was also distracting, and his performance was kind of very cartoonish, I think, to a degree. I think one of the big standouts here is Lady Gaga. I think if anybody's
Hmm.
probably going to be nominated for a performance, it would be Lady Gaga. And a lot of people have talked about her being nominated, for her performance here, and I think she's very strong here. And she looks very much like the woman that she's portraying, Policia.
Yeah,
Um,
Patrizia Reggiana,
yep,
Reggiani.
yep, and she looks, kind of a little bit similar to her. And I watched a little bit of an interview with the real life woman. She kind of had a very much of a deep, kind of husky kind of voice, and I think Lady Gaga was kind of good at a little bit at doing that, deeper kind of voice, huskier kind of voice. There was be some times I felt like when she slipped in and out of the accent at times, but I think I think she was solid. Adam Driver just sounds like Adam Driver kind of at times, you know what I mean, with a little hint of something every now and then. It's like, okay, he's just mostly Adam Driver. Jeremy Irons, it's just Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is not even. I mean, he's just doing his accent. I mean, he's not even. You know what I mean? Maybe his accent with a higher pitch. That's about it. But he's just doing his
Hmm.
accent. Al Pacino. You know what I mean? Al Pacino. I think, is he the only Italian guy in this movie?
Honestly, yeah. Next to maybe Vincent Riota, who's Fernando Reggiani. I mean.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, yeah, he's one of the few Italian peoples in this movie, and it's kind of just Al Pacino. Very much. He's like, yeah, I'm Al Pacino. I mean, people know me. I'm Italian, so I don't really have to try all that hard. And I will give the movie credit. They give us, one good Al Pacino freak out, moment, which we
Mm.
haven't seen in a long time. I was like, oh, classic angry Al Pacino.
Hooah!
Yeah, you know what I mean, which was kind of good to see, refreshing to see. But I think getting that out the way. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is just kind of a little kind of basic, kind of TV ish. I feel like a lot of the
Mm.
stuff, a lot of the writing and things, and a lot of stuff going on in the movie. What were kind of your thoughts overall about the film?
So, if Last Duel was the more serious, like almost gladiator Ridley Scott, where I'm gonna kind of do something a little bit more grandiose and kind of serious. This is kind of his all right, I'm gonna a more playful version. But the thing about this more playful version is at first I kind of like the first half. It was almost like a satire of this kind of a mafia mob story where they were a much lighter tone. You can everyone's like you could almost forgive Jared Leto's performance with as Paolo Gucci, even though it is completely distracting in every scene he's in, especially when he's acting alongside Al Pacino and Jeremy Irons, who are just kings of their craft, just having to deal with this Italian stereotype, just going, "What's the matter, you? I don't know," and you're just like, "Oh my god!"
Mm.
But it works if you're going. It's when it was kind of going for this weird dark satire, but then the movie takes a turn where just like the relationship takes a turn with Adam Driver and Lady Gaga, who are honestly the best parts of this whole movie,
Yeah.
just right from the get go. You actually do feel their chemistry. You do feel their romance initially, and while I agree that Adam Driver does seem a little bit the same, I think you do miss some of the more subtleties that he gives. And very much he's very reluctant at first, and he doesn't really want to be in this kind of a business. But his wife kind of pulls him in and says, "No, you need to take charge. You need to kind of do this." And she starts pushing him into the limelight, and by doing so, she unknowingly starts to kind of create and kind of change him and alter him. And you do notice those in little moments that he's allowed to kind of show that change. It's a bit more subtle. Those moments I liked. When the movie was a bit more subtle and kept to that dark satire, I was kind of digging it. But then when it takes that turn, when the real life elements of the story starts taking in and comes in, it feels very kind of almost abrupt. Now I want to take this seriously, and you can't really have a dark satire, but also want to play it straight as somewhat of a dark drama at the same time in the same movie. Like,
Mm.
this guy in real life, as a real life, a tragedy happens to this family. It actually happened in real life. People were put in jail. Like things actually happened to this family, and it almost kind of reminded me in a way of Michael Bay's the movie with the Rock
Pain and gain.
and Mark Pain and Gain with Pain and Gain, where it's a you're taking this real life tragedy, this real life moment, and you're doing a dark satire. But at least I'll give Pain and Gain this. It was consistent all throughout. His tone, whether you liked it or not, or you thought he was stupid about it, or really Michael Bayish, it was a consistent tone throughout. For this movie, like you said, it kind of feels like the tone's kind of all over the place, along with the accents. Some people are doing a pretty good job. Lady Gaga is doing a genuinely good performance, even when she slipped for action occasionally. I think Adam Driver is doing good little subtle moments. I think his role and his performance in Last Duel was better, but I do recognize his performance. And even Al Pacino is giving kind of a subtle performance, but he's allowed to ham it up in those few moments. That was nice to kind of see. But everything else, it's like it just doesn't fall into place.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. When speaking of the tone, it's like it's trying to balance because this story. It's a crazy story. Like if you
Yeah,
look
it
at look
really is.
you look at the story, it's a crazy story about what happened and what kind of led to things. I won't spoil anything if what I mean for people who don't really know the real
Yeah.
story that this is based on. But it's a crazy story and there was a lot kind of involved with it. And the tone, like you said, it's trying to do kind of somewhat of you feel like a comedy kind of, but then it's trying to do more dark drama and it just doesn't mesh all that well. It
Well,
kind of
like a dark satire. Not necessarily a comedy, but it has comedic moments, and you can see that early on. And there, and so the more cartoonish nature of it is allowed. It's you can allow it when it's a more of a darker satire. But when you start to then creep up on more the tragedy element of this, very few directors and scripts can walk that fine line. Mostly the
uh oh, hold on a second. Dusk?
oh, yeah, I'm there. Sorry.
Oh,
Mostly the Conan brothers. Discord crashed. Mostly the Conan brothers can walk that fine line, but with this kind of movie, I don't think Ridley Scott in the script was able to find that balance, and so it then hits a wall instead of walking past it.
Yeah, because kind of like what it kind of feels like it's like an Adam McKay movie, where it's like like
Yeah,
if you see The Big Short or like something like Vice, where it tries to
right.
combine a lot of those. But Adam McKay has very much of a comedic background. I think with those movies like The Big
Hmm.
Short and with Vice, it was going for more of straightforward kind of comedic kind of tone with some drama kind of sprinkled in
And
there.
and he lets you know early what kind of a movie it is, and when they break and they do a fourth wall break, it's in key moments, so it allows the audience to kind of go, "Oh, this is the kind of movie it's going to be."
Yeah. Yeah, and I just don't think it just works all that well. Like I think something like if you were to say something like Wolf of Wall Street, for instance,
Mm,
which was directed by Martin Scorsese, like that has, I guess, that dark satire that you're talking about. Because again, that's another crazy kind of story
mm,
that happened, about Jordan Belfort and everything like that. And nobody got murdered in that, really,
that we
but
know of.
yeah, that we kind of know of, but but that's kind of another crazy story. But this, being a real life thing, kind of with murder being involved, and they've made kind of things about that about murder and had kind of comedic tones like that in movies before. But I don't think it just works all that well here. Like I said, Adam Driver and Lady Gaga. I mean, most of the film is spent with them, and they're the best parts of it. And like I said, the change that he kind of goes through in the movie is also very good, because like he starts off as kind of this very meek, quiet kind of guy.
Yeah,
And
just very reluctant.
yeah, which I was seeing something about this kind of real life story, like a documentary about it, and they said like, well, that was kind of the way he was in real life, like the real life guy. He's a very reserved guy, kind of very shy guy. Grew up, as a boy, and then when he grew up into a man, he just was, very kind of a shy guy. And then when he, meets Patricia for the first time, she's very much of the aggressor in it. She's very much of the one pursuing him. Asking him to ask her on a date, and seeing how that kind of relation developed, and really pushing kind of him to be more, with his family and be more in charge. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you got more sense than any of the other dudes here, that are running the company. And as you see, like, she was kind of the best business person out of all of them, and then they were the ones, the father, Jeremy Irons, the father of the Adam Driver character. I mean, he's the one looking down on her. It's like, oh, your father just runs a trucking business. I mean, what, it's this disgrace, but she knew more about, anything, I think, what to do with the company than any of them. A lot of them, one character, Jeremy Irons' character, was too much stuck in the past about what Gucci should be, just should be in the museums and looked at and not, worn. And then you had, Al Pacino as Aldo Gucci, very much not caring about the brand of Gucci, and letting knockoffs be sold. Paolo Gucci, Jared Leto, just very much of, just an idiot, as they say. I mean, a lot of his, he wants to be his own man, his own designer. And when you actually get to look at a lot of his clothes, I mean, all that shit was ugly. I mean, I'm not a
Hmm.
big fashionista guy, but I was like, oh, that shit was kind of fucking ugly. I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
but
no,
I'm sure if you put it out now, put the Gucci name on it, it would sell like gangbusters.
yeah, true. I mean, a lot of people would just buy a lot of stuff because of the name brand,
Yeah,
and then just what's associated.
people people bought a Kanye West shirt that had nothing on it. It was just a T-shirt for like $200 just because it had a Kanye Yeezy brand on it.
I mean, that's what people do. I mean, the brand sells things more than the actual product itself, because it's just all about flaunting it of what you have. And yeah, I mean, so they were. I mean, they didn't know how to run any things, and their business suffered because of it. Yeah, I mean, I just to kind of give my final thoughts about it. Yeah, I was a little let down by this. I was expecting something stronger,
Hmm.
really stronger narrative, really stronger writing. Um, and I was kind of let down by that. Stronger performances too. Jared Leto. I think it's comical, but I don't think it's that good of a point. It wouldn't be something that would earn like best supporting actor. I think I don't. I think you'd be better off. You should have maybe just got an older actor and just maybe did some slight makeup instead of just doing this whole transformation that you had to do with
Hmm.
Jared Leto and putting him putting all this weight on him and the hair and everything like that. It's just like you could have just maybe got an older actor to come in and play it. But I do think Lady Gaga would be probably the key person that would walk away with a nomination here, and then maybe this other film, maybe for the cinematography of it, the costume design, maybe set design of things, because I think that's all looks really nice. Yeah, for me, I just would give it a maybe a 6 out of 10, maybe strong 6 out of 10, or nah, I'd be maybe more light 6 out of 10. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of fall in the same area you do. This movie it has good cinematography. The production design and the outfits match the time period and really match this kind of extravagant luxury that this family was able to have. The actors that do a good job do a really do a good job with the material given, but that mismatching tone, the way pacing is kind of done, and the way the story is written kind of holds it all back. At the end of the day, that's kind of what holds it back from being a better movie. If you fixed a lot of elements from this could have easily been an 8 out of 10, like a strong 8 out of 10 movie. Would have had its flaws, but it still would have been a strong showing from Ridley Scott. But just these slip ups, it kind of bring it down to a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Also, with the soundtrack of this movie, super predictable stuff. I mean, because it's set in
Oh
the
yeah.
'80s, it's like you got to have the traditional Blondie song. You got to have
Hmm.
George Michael. I think the Sweet Dreams Are Made of This was also in the movie. It's like typical '80s songs. It's like any
Yeah.
'80s movies, you always got to have those '80s songs, and it's like okay, that's kind of very typical needle drops that you put in here because it's an '80s movie set in the '80s and everything like that for the most part of it. But yeah, that's kind of another thing too. All right, moving on from discussing House of Gucci. We're going to be discussing. You want to discuss Cowboy Bebop or you want to discuss Hawkeye?
Coin toss. Let's do Hawkeye because that's quicker. Because I have a lot to say about Cowboy Bebop.
Okay, so next up, we're going to be discussing Hawkeye. Hawkeye is finally getting his own TV show on Disney Plus after the years of being relegated to the background. He's
Kind of.
well, yeah, kind of. After we have preface that he is getting teamed up with Kate Bishop, who is potentially going to be the future Hawkeye, but we'll get more into that later. But yeah, after years of being relegated to the background, Hawkeye's finally getting more of a chance to shine here in his own TV series on Disney Plus. And the first 2 episodes dropped, which I thought was pretty nice. I like that when they drop the first 2 episodes because it gives you more of a feel for the series. I think they did that with WandaVision, which was good because the first episodes of WandaVision was kind of them really just doing the sitcom kind of setup that they were doing. They wasn't really delving that much into the plot at first. So I think it was good for them to do the first 2 episodes. I think it's good here that they do the first 2 episodes to kind of set up the story, kind of get people intrigued about what's kind of going on and maybe whether or not they should stay. And what's going on here is you have Kate Bishop, who the story opens with, as a little girl, 2012. And she was just quietly in her house with her parents, and of course 2012. That's when
There.
the what was that alien race called? That was the Chari, right?
Chitari, yeah.
Yeah, so when they attacked New York City, and everything kind of went to hell then, and you see why she has such an attachment to becoming like an archer, like Hawkeye's, because he saved her life during that whole invasion, and she saw kind of what a badass he was. And Hawkeye, I mean, he's a guy. I mean, he's a very incredibly highly skilled guy, but he's just a guy compared to like you have superhuman beings that he's fighting with. Hawkeye doesn't really get any love because it's just like, well, you're just the dude with the bow and arrows. I mean, he's been made a butt of jokes for the longest time, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, you're just kind of just the guy with the bows and arrows. He doesn't really have a good thing going for him. It's like when you look at the Avengers lineup, it's like okay, Steve Rogers, he's Steve Rogers, he's Captain America, he's the symbol of America with the shield and everything like
Hmm.
that. Thor, I mean, he's a literal god.
They even
Hulk,
say that in the first episode. He's a literal god.
yeah, I mean he's a literal god, and then you have the Incredible Hulk. I mean, obviously he's super incredibly strong and destructive. At least Black Widow. I mean, you could say like, well, I mean, she's got the woman thing going for her. She's the only woman on the team.
He's
So
also a spy.
yeah, also a spy, and so there's that. It's just like, and then there's Hawkeye. Okay, you shoot the arrows, and okay, they're just doing that. Okay, all right, So it's like, where does he kind of fit in here? And I think the show. I mean, the show what this is aiming to do, and what I like, and what I've said about a lot of the Disney Plus shows, is that it's aiming for each show kind of has its own feel, which I like. Like, what WandaVision doing is not similar to what Falcon and the Winter Soldier was doing, and it's not similar to what Loki was doing. Here it's more street level stuff. It's more of an action buddy cop kind of thing. When you saw the trailer and you think it's like you got very much Shane Black vibes from this. Well, that is correct. I mean, it also helps that it's set during Christmas time, which is always a staple of Shane Black movies. Is that a lot of his movies, majority of his movies, take place during Christmas. So I think that's what they're aiming to do with this, and that's what Hawkeye kind of does with this, doing a mentor mentee relationship he has with Kate Bishop. And so as Kate Bishop, it's, as you said, it's kind of Hawkeye show, kind of. Well, what that means is that Kate Bishop is a lot of focus of the show. It's even though it is titled Hawkeye, she does get a lot of focus. You see kind of her whole upbringing, her being because she comes from a wealthy family. And it's a really cool thing they did, like in the montage of this show, is they show all her accomplishments to let you know that, okay, she is a badass in her own right. Like, you see, she even probably went to the Olympics for archery. She won all these trophies, all these medals of in archery. She also did martial arts, black belt in that. So it lets you know that she has a set of skills herself. You know what I mean? That allows her to be very, very capable. And it's funny because I was online because it's fun. Somebody said, like, well, what if she saw Hulk save her life, and then she was like, okay, I need to take a bunch of steroids and paint myself green. You know what I mean? Because whoever saved Avengers saved her life, she would just form this attachment to whoever did it. And it's luckily it was just Hawkeye who did it. Something a little bit more attainable because he is just a regular person. Yeah, so I was kind of really enjoying that feel and kind of that tone with the two episodes. What were kind of you thinking about the first two episodes?
It's at first the first two episodes, the start of it is pretty good, or at least interesting. It starts with this new character, gives a little bit background to how she attains, and it is nice in the initial montage that you see a progression. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that progression instead of it being a montage, but hey, we only got six episodes. I'll take it that it's just kind of built on this of her being determined to get stronger and to kind of emulate her hero, so to speak. And then the first two episodes honestly have very interesting tones because on the one hand you have almost a Disney Plus Kate Bishop teen is like a teen kind of action show that almost reminded me of like a Kim Possible like show where no one's really dying. I mean, the action's kind of happening, kids getting into trouble. Oh no, I have a little bit of complicated relationship with my parents. Kind of very Disney chic. And then you have this more interesting, darker story with Barton and him dealing with PTSD, the decisions made after it, uh, dealing with now he has a handicap with the hearing aid, which was actually straight from the comics, which was nice to see them implementing that he suffered legitimate damage because of his heroism. I also like, and you just get this a completely different vibe from his show versus hers whenever they were not around individually. And I kind of wanted to see more of just Bart and his family, just and him kind of dealing with this, trying to live a normal life and kind of not being able to. And honestly, by the second episode, that basically is dashed by the end. By the end of that, because the family's basically just kind of kicked out of the show. They're like, bye.
Yeah.
We're gonna follow Kate Bishop's stupid plot.
Yeah. I mean, when you speak of them kind of bringing in stuff from the comics, like with the hearing aid, I think maybe a lot of people know, and if you don't know, this series is heavily inspired by the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye. That's kind of like the big run of the show, and they pull a lot of stuff from that comic. Even the visual opening intro of this show
Yeah.
is inspired by from the way the comic is, and they even bring in the dog, who was a big part of the character from the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series. They bring that in here as well. So yeah, I mean,
Blinking dog.
yeah, the lucky dog, and so Yeah, they do bring a lot of those elements. That's a heavy inspiration here. And like you said, I do really appreciate like when you first see, Hawkeye, he's in a musical with his, with his family, with his kids, and and he's watching it. It's all about the invasion of New York, and it's called Rogers Musical. And of course, the musical, it's not very accurate at all because it has Ant-Man and it has all these other people who were never there during the whole battle.
For a second, I thought like there was this guy with a green hoodie, and I thought he had like silver face paint on his face, and I'm like, is that? Did they put like Doctor Doom in there?
Oh,
Like for a minute, I'm like, is that? And then they cut, and he's not there, and it's like the Hulk. He's wearing a green hoodie. I'm like, for a second, I thought they just in the background. Here's Doctor Doom.
that's the way they introduced Doctor Doom, is just in a Rogers musical. It just
Yeah, why not? Because that's is a complete parody, and you just see him like zoning out, just
yeah.
like I none of that happened at all. Like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, he's almost just like having a panic attack almost because it's like he sees, the version of Nat, Black Widow, there, and he just kind of, obviously, that was his best friend, and she passed away about what happened there, and obviously that's still weighing heavy on him.
Yeah,
Um,
they had a very close relationship on many levels, but yeah, she was a very good friend to him and vice versa.
Yeah, and obviously, that obviously triggers him as well, and then him going to the bathroom, and because people do recognize him as being a hero, because
Oh yeah.
none of the heroes really in the Marvel universe, except for just recently, I guess Spider-Man. I mean, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
also I guess Black Panther, I guess has a secret identity.
Daredevil, characters that care about their identity. We
Yeah,
can't all be drunk Jessica Jones who don't give a crap that there's a whether or not I can lift a car.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, a lot of Marvel and the heroes in the Marvel universe, they don't have a secret identity. Like everybody knows who's who, so they all know, Clint, and they all want to take photos. And he goes to the bathroom, and some guy, you know what I mean, wants to take a photo with him, in the bathroom. And I think that was a perfectly awkward moment of what it's like. I mean, Clint's just, he's a guy that kind of just wants to be left alone and be with his
The
family.
writing on the stall, just on the toilet seat especially, was very like, ooh, that's very human and really dark. I like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. The whole thing with because when he goes to the bathroom, on the stall it says Thanos was right on there, which that again that would be people who would be like yeah Thanos was right. I mean you see that in real life. Right now people going like yeah I mean if half the population went away that wouldn't be maybe such a bad thing. A lot of more resources for people, everything like that. Yeah. So that I mean yeah I thought that was a very good added nice little touch to that as well. But yeah, I mean, he's just trying to live his life. He's retired.
Mm,
Now and then. Jeremy Renner. He is 50 years old, and you see
yeah.
kind of more kind of older Hawkeye. And it's funny when Kate Bishop in the series when she asked him, so it's like when he reveals he's got a hearing aid to her, she's like, oh, how did that happen? And then it shows a quick little montage of all the times he's been in all these different battles and explosions. And he's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's probably why. Are you about to say something?
No, no. I mean that again. That kind of adds. That's also taken from the comics. He was an ex-soldier, and then just over time, being all these different incidents. I mean, he's just a human guy, and eventually, if you are next to explosions all the time, you're gonna lose your hearing.
Yeah. So I thought that was yeah a really really kind of good moment there. How do you like Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop? I said you said it gave more of like a Kim Possible kind of vibe, but how do you like her performance as Kate Bishop?
She she's terribly earnest, and that's not a bad thing. But I do think in some ways she's a bit miscast.
Okay.
In some ways, but I'm not sure whether or not that's because of her performance or the direction they want for her character and the way she's written. The writing for her character isn't bad, but it is fairly it's very expected. There aren't a lot of surprises to her characters. Everything you kind of think she's going to kind of do, she does. If you've seen a show that kind of has a plucky teen or someone who's wants to show off in front of their hero, bam, she's every single cliche you've ever seen. But then she'll do something that's very kind of quick and very kind of young or very youthful and energetic, and she'll do something like very quick that you'll be like, that's very off the cuff and feels like something someone who doesn't know what to do in a situation would, and that does feel natural. But what kind of character is she? Are we going with that she's if she's 22, are we going to treat her like a 22-year-old? But sometimes she acts like she's 18 or 17. But in the fight scenes, particularly in her fight scenes, I think she's miscast in the fact that the choreography it fails her. She's extremely slow, telegraphs her hits very quickly, like very easily, and just people just take those hits because it's a show, and you're like, oh man, I know you guys are on a budget, but I don't know whether or not it's her or the choreography, but it's just not working. Especially in that early fight, the like mid late of the first episode. It gets better when Clint Barton's around as Jeremy Renner, but Jeremy Renner's also had experience. He's also done this for a while, so he knows what to do. He's had advanced choreography. With her, I'm not so certain. I don't know where they kind of dropped the ball, but I do feel they kind of have with that aspect. And just the gee golly ask of her character. Like, what's the tone here? What are we going with her character? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, because like I said, buddy comedy kind of thing aspect with this show, very much, kind of that element bringing the,
Right.
into it. And I think I see what you're saying about Haley Steinfeld. It is very much of kind of like, plucky teenager, even though she's 22 in the show. Kind of that element there. She seems like she's presented a little bit younger, even though she
Yeah.
says she's 22, like you said. I mean, just the way sometimes she acts a little bit. Like the whole situation, like with her mother, who's played by Vera Farmiga.
Oh yeah.
Because when the incident happened in 2012, that's when she lost her biological father, and then you have this new guy who's kind of coming in and trying to be with her mother. Which I mean, by one look of the guy, you can already tell, okay, this guy's a bad guy. I mean, look at the
Mm-hmm.
mustache, look at the outfit, look at the hair. You know
The
what I
guy
mean?
collects swords.
Yeah, I mean, come on, look at him. I mean, clear bad guy here. What's going on? But her
Not
mother,
that collecting not that collecting swords automatically makes you a bad guy, but it doesn't help.
yeah, it doesn't help. Plus the mustache, he's got the like one of those mustaches like
Yeah.
from the 1800s. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
or like an oil, baron or something like that. It's like, okay, look at this
Yeah.
guy. But the kind of the whole stuff where she's acting towards it. I get, your dad passed away, and obviously, you'd
Right.
be, sensitive to anybody trying to, you
But
know,
her reaction felt more like a 15-year-old reacting to that.
yeah,
Someone still processing that loss, then hey, it's been 10 plus years. I've done the best I can as as a mother to a girl. I'm just trying to get in a relationship. Can you be like a little bit supportive? Like the first thing she even hears about it is just this like I'm just so mad at you. Why
yeah.
didn't you like and I'm like that's not a reaction you would have at that point in your life. Or maybe you would, I don't know. It just seemed a little too young for that kind of a reaction.
Yeah, because you got to think the timeline of the Marvel Universe now is like
Yeah.
2025 because they did the whole
Yeah.
5 year skip. So I think it's like 2024, 2025 now. So it's like, and then the incident in the Avengers happened in 2012. So it's like 13 years later
Yeah.
since that, since her father passed away. And it's like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, it just wasn't presented in kind of the best way. It just seemed like bratty teenager rather than more young adult. But yeah, so that was kind of a little bit of an issue. The humor in the show overall, is it kind of a hit or miss for you? Because a lot of people talk about the Marvel humor, and sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't. Do you think it's a hit mostly?
I feel like the rest of this so far, it's kind of half and half. Sometimes she'll Kate Bishop will do something that's very quick and very just kind of off the cuff, and I kind of laugh at that just because you're like, okay, sure, that's kind of funny because she just doesn't know what to do, and so I understand in that moment. I'm just gonna have to make a call, and I do it. Then sometimes she'll actually do they'll do a quick. Oh, she actually does something pretty competent, and you're like, oh, that's nice to see. And then like and then Hawkeye will comment on that, and that's kind of funny. they do have good chemistry when the script allows them to. When it's just character versus character, not and she's just Kate Bishop is kind of allowed to act her age, 22-year-old looking up to this hero, and he's just this. When they get to, it's almost like the show is a combination between Die Hard and Home Alone.
Mm.
It's these very, it's like a John Hughes movie meets a Die Hard movie, an action movie, and you're like, this could work with a very specific vision, and it needs to, like, but it kind of feels more like a couple of different writers are doing it. So every once in a while you get a joke that felt like that from that guy. That person wrote that, or this woman wrote this, and that hit there, or and then this one hits there, but not quite. So it's kind of a toss up. I'd say 50% hits, 50% lands, so it's at 50-50. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it just feels like unnecessary. I want to know a little bit more about Clint. I want to know a little bit more how he's been dealing with things. I want to know. I don't really care about the tracksuit mafia. I don't really care about this kind of aspect. The relationship between him and her, and she's looking up to this guy that he just doesn't want to be this guy anymore. That's interesting to me. That's the interesting dynamic.
Mm.
It's almost like everything else around it. I'm kind of like, I can see how this is much better done in the comic, but they've also taken stuff from the comics and not done that here too.
Mm.
Like the character that's supposed to marry Kate Bishop's mom in the comics, that guy taught Hawkeye. He was his mentor,
Mm.
but he apparently has said on record, no, that is definitely not in this series. So I'm like, oh, well, you just lost an interesting thread that could have been there too.
Mm. Mm.
Or maybe he's lying because all Marvel people are liars.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know that guy that's about. I mean, they seem around the same age. It doesn't seem like he's that much older than Jeremy Renner.
Yeah,
But maybe they bring it in, maybe they don't. We still got it's because the series is only 6 episodes.
yeah, we're like 1/3 through.
Yeah. Like you said, I do like the relationship between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld. I think they work well together. And then when he's trying to teach her stuff, and she has these moments where she really wants to impress him, but then messes up. I think those are good moments. You know what I mean? Like she does one good thing, but then immediately after that she messes up. Like there's a scene where the tracksuit mafia are after them, and then they kind of burn down. They try to burn down her place. They burn down her. Well, actually, they don't try to. They actually do.
They said they do.
Yeah, they throw Molotov cocktails. And there's one scene where she shoots one of the Molotov cocktails out of their hands. And he's like, hey, good job, good shot. He's like, okay. And then she's like, okay, well, we got to get that suit. The fire is rising. And she's like, okay. And then she's like, going to shoot the fire extinguisher. But then when she shoots that, it bounces all over the apartment and then shoots out the window. That's like, so I think those moments were very good. You know what I mean? Like her really trying to prove herself.
She's still learning. That is I'm really thankful that they actually wrote a feminine character. Since Disney's all been about the force of female characters are perfect, they don't make mistakes. It's good to see someone who's trained really hard and still makes mistakes or has flaws that they're working towards overcoming. So that I do actually like.
Yeah.
I am happy that the protege doesn't just outshine the master. It's more like, oh, well, I have a couple of good moments where I do exactly what I want to do, but then, oh shoot, like a little too off on the side. I mean, arrows are tricky things, man.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't always do what you want them to do, and yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, I think those are kind of really good moments in the series. The villains of it, like you said, the Tracksuit Mafia, who are the main kind of antagonists right now that we have for the series. They're very cartoonish in a way, like the way they act. You know what I mean? The accents, very like Eastern European.
Very Ukrainian, Eastern. They felt like a Nico, cousin.
Yeah.
Go for bowling.
Yeah, kind of very, very much like that. So it's hard to feel any real danger for Hawkeye since like these people are such buffoons. It's hard to feel any real danger against the people he's going.
We flash back to him murdering people way more competent than these guys, and not that long ago. So you're like, I mean, it's only just cause he's not like gonna murderize you all that you're just still alive right now. He could just snap all of your necks if he really wanted to.
Yeah. But he's a better man now. You know what I
Yep.
mean? He's not
He's trying
trying
to
to.
be a family man.
Yeah. So yeah, I think kind of that was kind of one of the weaker elements in the show. Like you said, I think I would say more it's Lethal Weapon, um, Home Alone rather than Die Hard.
Okay, no, you got a point. I said Die Hard because of the Christmas theme, which has apparently upset some people. I know in the original comics it was just more of like a winter theme. They didn't really go to a specific religious holiday or whatever, but that's apparently upset some people that they're really pushing the Christmas angle of this.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, I'm not being insensitive at all, and I completely understand you wanted a Christmas thing. You're in New York City during Christmas, the winter holiday. There's going to be a Christmas tree on every corner.
Yeah. I mean,
That's unavoidable.
yeah, big city type of thing. And actually, Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie. It's kind of a
Yeah, it
Christmas,
is.
kind
So
of.
is Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard. Yeah, Lethal Weapon. Everything
Shane
like.
Black likes to do that.
Yeah, actually, this would have been a perfect thing for Shane Black to jump on and write, but he already did Iron Man 3. I mean, this would have been more perfect suitable for him to do.
Yeah, honestly, I could easily see Shane Black kind of doing this kind of a movie to balance the more darker aspects with the lighter tone.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, with this series, the first two episodes, I'm interested in more exploring, like I said, with the Clint, as Hawkeye,
Mm.
Jeremy Renner gets a chance to really show more of the character, and how he just tries to kind of live his life. I think is very good. And yeah, he just wants people to treat him normally. He's like, hey, I did a job, I did my thing. I fought the battles. I did all that stuff.
Yeah,
You
he feels
know,
very much like an ex-soldier, like I'm who's honorably discharged. I did my time. I just want to live my life. I want to spend time with my family, the people that I did all that so I could spend time with.
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, and then his family just gets
Yep.
you know, sh-
Yoink.
yeah, shipped away there. Um, hey, thank you, Javon Good. Thank you so much, man, for coming by. Thanks for the 100 bits. We were just talking about Hawkeye, the first two episodes there that were on Disney Plus. Did you watch the show? If you did, let us know what you thought in the chat there.
Mm.
That's to everybody coming by. But we're about to wrap up here with the review for Hawkeye and move on to Cowboy Bebop. But yeah, so for Hawkeye, I would give it the first two episodes. I think it's a solid start. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 for me. The first two episodes, I
Mm.
think it's kind of enjoyable. I think it's kind of something that I kind of like more right away than maybe something like Loki or
Mm.
WandaVision kind of right away. I think WandaVision turned much better. I think the first two episodes is like, okay, it's getting the setup and getting what you're familiar with. So did kind of Loki. But this is kind of like it's I think its simplicity is almost its strength because it's like, hey, listen, buddy cop kind of element. Okay, him palling around with Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop. Okay, let's go. People, you get the general kind of setup there. That's kind of pretty nice in simplicity. I kind of think it's a strength. So I'd give it a 7 out of 10. What about you?
Kind of fall around where you are. Part of me wants to just because some of the elements kind of knock it down a bit. I was thinking maybe a high 6, but I'm gonna go with a low 7.
Mm,
It does just enough where it's a solid entry, and I'm interested in seeing more. Depending on how it goes, the series could either dip to a 6 or a 5, depending on how things go. But from where it seems to be going, it looks like it's gonna just fall in like a low 7, maybe high 6. But I'm gonna go with the 7 right now.
okay, 7. All right, yeah. All right. So we'll come back. I don't know if we're gonna do weekly reviews of Hawkeye, or I don't know if we're gonna do we'll probably just do weekly reviews of it because it's a Disney show. We always say like with these sometimes with these shows like oh we'll finish it we'll review when it's all done, but there's always something that happens in these
Yeah.
episodes that comes up. So we'll probably just do like weekly reviews of it. All right. So moving on from discussing Hawkeye, we're gonna be discussing Cowboy Bebop, the live action anime adaptation that is on Netflix currently, starring John Cho, who is the lead as Spike Spiegel. So we just recently binged. Actually, I just recently binged the anime series, and we did a review for it, which is up on the site now. You can look at it wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and it's also on YouTube, of course. YouTube.com, the Afternoon Tune, where you can just type in that and type in Cowboy Bebop, and we do a whole review of the anime series that is also on Netflix as well. So when you're done with kind of this, then listen to our live action review. You can go listen to what we thought of the anime review. So it's nice for me because I went back and we watched all the 26 episodes of the anime. I haven't seen the anime in over a decade,
Mm.
so it was kind of nice for me to go back and watch it again, and remember some stuff about it in preparation for the live action adaptation. And the action adaptation does take a lot from the anime. There's even some storylines they do that are plot like episodes they do from the anime that get adapted here into the
Beat
live
by
action.
beat,
We say.
beat by beat, or somewhat beat by beat.
Yeah, like for instance, the first episode, the second half of it, they do the whole Red Eye storyline with the guy, the criminal who's kind of escaping. Him and his girlfriend or wife. They want to
Mm.
go to Mars and they want to kind of escape there, and he's addicted to Red Eye. So that's straight from the first episode of the anime of Cowboy Bebop. Um, and I think this live action adaptation is getting a lot of hate. Getting a lot of people coming after it. And kind of getting a lot of negative response in it. But do we feel the same way? Dusk, I'll let you kind of go first. You said you had a lot to say about it. What were kind of your thoughts on the 10 episodes of Cowboy Bebop here?
I think this is another great example that anime or animation, with very rare exceptions, can be translated to live action. And just from looking at the show, watching as much as I could, and I skimmed through it. Don't get it twisted. I saw all 10 episodes. I put myself through the paces to do all this, and I can just affirm, if you have any inkling of seeing Cowboy Bebop at all, which some consider, including myself, I consider it one of the greatest animes of all time, skip the live action. Don't even bother. Just go and watch the anime, and you can just skip all of this because this might as well just be a very expensive fan fiction live action interpretation, and a not very good one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love Cowboy Bebop the anime. I think it's one of the best animes of all time. It's a very good beginner starter anime. If you ever want to give
Mm,
somebody hey, like if you ever want to get anime, what's some recommend to people to get people into it, you would always say like, well, I think Cowboy Bebop is a good one. It's not too crazy. It's not too wild. It's hey, bounty hunters in space, cowboys, that kind of thing. It's like it's pretty straightforward. Doesn't have to deal with tentacle monsters or
yeah.
characters from other dimensions and some wild stuff like that. It's like, hey, it's pretty just straightforward. It's kind of like a western in space, which people are very kind of familiar with. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. Any list you'll see of greatest animes of all time, Cowboy Bebop will be in the top 10, top five, somewhere around there. Here with this live action adaptation, is it one of the worst live action adaptations I've ever seen of an anime? No, I think that it's not even one of the worst ones Netflix has done. I think Death Note is maybe worse than this. Of course, Dragon Ball Evolution, which Netflix didn't do, but just to bring up an example of another live action anime adaptation, I think that this is obviously. I mean, that's still one of the worst ones ever. That's just one of the worst movies ever. Period. I also say Ghost in the Shell. I think it's better than that, with Scarlett Johansson in there. Let me start off with some kind of things I liked about it. Because I'm kind of saying like, well, it's not as bad as these things. I'm saying like, well, it's not as worse. I kind of want to say some things good about it. Before I say some things negative about it.
Words were
So
short.
yeah, so so with the cast they have here, so John Cho is Spike Spiegel, Mustafa Shakir is Jet Black, Daniela Panetti as Faye Valentine. I will say, as the show continues and showing all the three of them work together, they had good chemistry together. I will say, I think they work very, very well together. And I think Mustafa Shakir as Jet Black, he's doing a dead-on Jet Black. I mean, if you ever listen to the anime, the English dub version, he's doing a spot-on Jet Black. I mean, it's like dead on. It's like, wow, I mean, that is pretty good. It's like it felt like he really studied the anime, studied the way that the voice actor who voiced Jet Black, and really got him down. I mean, because that was like very impressive. And Mustafa Shakur, you saw him. He was in Luke Cage season 2. He was Bushmaster in that. John Cho as Spike Spiegel, I think does a fine job. Spike Spiegel, if you know him from the anime, the way he fights is very much like the Bruce Lee kind of fight, his own fighting style.
Kundo.
Yeah, Jet Kundo. The way his whole design is made after Lupin the Third. And he's a very kind of nonchalant, kind of cool character. I think John Cho does a decent job. I think I've talked about this many times before. I think someone maybe along the lines of Andrew Koji would have been, maybe much of a better pick. I think if Nick turned me on the Warrior, and ever since he's turned me on that show, I've been obsessed with Andrew Koji. I think, yeah, this guy's really awesome. I think, with the action scenes, that's kind of one of the things that really suffer with the show, because if you kind of it doesn't seem like they have the budget to really do a lot of the good action scenes here. And when they do a lot of the fight choreography, because Spike Spiegel is a martial artist and he does a lot of fights and kind of action scenes with other, kind of their action scenes with other characters. And it's very much, you can feel like where the choreography is there. It's like, okay, I hit my mark here and I do this, and then you hit my mark here and then I'm going to do this. And, you can very much feel where they're doing the choreography throughout the entire show when it comes to the action scenes. And it just feels very slow and very kind of not very fluid. It's something that you would see in HBO's, Warrior, or maybe Into the Badlands or something like that. It just doesn't feel very fluid. I know John Cho also hurt himself when he was on set. I think he broke his knee, so maybe that has something to do with it too, of why it's like some of his scenes feel very stilted and very kind of rigid and everything like that, because I know he hurt himself when he was on set, and they had to delay production for like 6 months or something in order for him to heal up. But yeah, a lot of the action just doesn't feel all that exciting to watch. Like for instance, like there's the episode with Mad Pierre, and if everybody remembers that episode from the anime, that was very much an action-packed episode. The fight scene there was very exciting because of what this character could do, and then here it's just not as exciting as something that you would see in the show. Daniela Panetti as Faye Valentine. I think she's solid.
Pineda.
Huh?
Pineda.
Pineda. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Pineeda.
Yeah, Daniela Pineda. I think she does a fine job as Faye Valentine. I think she does kind of a decent job there. And like I said, I do like all three of them working together. I don't know exactly what the budget of this show was. A lot of the effects when it comes to the way the ships look, and when they're in space, they don't look the best. It's not something like maybe if like a Disney Plus show, where it's like clearly they're pumping a lot of money into it to make it look as good as possible, movie quality level. A lot of that stuff just doesn't look as good. A lot of the dialogue, in the show is also not that good.
Downright terrible.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe you've seen this online already, people, if you haven't watched the show, but there's like a screen cap going around of the dialogue between Jet Black and this old associate that he used to work with, like this woman. And then she said like a line like, they're blackmailing you because you're black and you're a male. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was awful. I mean, that was just downright terrible. So there's lots of dialogue like that just is really bad in it. And I think but as the show progresses, I kind of got a little bit more into it. I think the first,
got used to it.
Yeah, maybe I had Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, man. I know you. I'll let you finish, but I do think you have like a Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, maybe I just was kind of just like, okay, this is what it is. But I'm trying to not to always compare.
I know.
Back to.
I feel you, brother, and you're doing a valiant effort. I feel it. I see it. But yeah, I'm gonna let you finish. But I got things to say.
Yeah, but I think after the first couple episodes, few episodes, I think it does get a little better by that. But we'll see which get your kind of thoughts on it there. How you feel about everything.
Like you, I'm going to say the positives of the show. Don't worry, it won't be long. All right. The actor who's playing Jet Black despite the fact that they completely race swapped him, and in the anime he was actually Japanese. That's fun. As I got Mustafa Shakir, honestly does damn good job for what he's given. And he's given some terrible lines and direction, and he does the best he can. He looks the part. He's trying to act the part. It's just a shame he's in this kind of a project that is not utilizing his effort. Because honestly, out of all the stars of this show who are playing these characters, he seems to know what he's in. He seems to understand what kind of a character Jet Black should be. He's just not allowed to really play that character. In fact, one of my favorite episodes from the anime deals with directly with him and his ex-wife. They completely butcher that storyline, and that's another thing that I do want to get into later. But I'm trying to be positive, and I'm going to pull myself back.
Okay.
Mustafa Shakir does a good job. It does a good job. What he's getting. John Cho, despite the age being a hindrance for him, I can see what he's kind of going for the performance. He wants to play a little bit more lighthearted. He wants to play aloof. Is like aloof, and in the very few moments, like that completely breaks character. But there are little moments of him where you're like, all right, man, maybe a couple, like 20 years ago, you could have pulled this off if you were given the right material. And I do appreciate that. Despite the budget hitches, I can tell that they were trying to emulate the feel and tone, the feel and look of the show. The ship itself looks very well decorated. Someone looked over the entire scene of that ship, and they did a good job trying to recapture that feel. The ship that Spike Beagle flies is pretty accurate to what the ship was in the anime, along with the Bebop itself. When it comes to places, locations, and items, there's a good job of production and trying to get it to look as close to the anime as possible. Even the soundtrack they brought back is great to hear again. Cowboy Bebop possibly has one of the best jazz soundtracks, or just one of the best anime soundtracks, which for its great use of jazz and great just odd performers for the time, really made it stand out. The fantastic tank opening that they also recreated to very good effect on this one. So there are moments and parts that feel very well done or recopied, very fair, and I do appreciate that effort. The problem with all of this positiveness, though, unfortunately, is every single thing that's positive about this show is based on the anime itself. Nothing it new brings in new to this actually makes it better. In fact, the entire series that had been written, they've said that, oh, we were trying to right the wrongs of the anime and fix issues that were never there. Which is disrespectful to the original creators and his work, that he went through a lot of effort to make this anime. If people don't know about this, Cowboy Bebop was originally made to sell model spaceships. So when the anime was commissioned initially to it, he presented these ships that looked beaten, they looked well worn and defeated, and the company was like, "What is this? Why does it look well worn? Was it beaten? We need to sell these." But he stuck to his vision. He wanted to make more than just a commercial sale of it. He actually wanted to tell a story. And he had to fight tooth and nail so much. Halfway through the series, about episode 12, there is this hidden episode that was only done in Japan. You can find it, I think, on Blu-ray and a couple of effects. I highly recommend you watch it. It's a great philosophy work because he didn't think he was going to be able to finish the series. And it's each character in their Japanese voice actors talking about their philosophy. Jet goes on to why he named the ship the Bebop. Spike talks about a little bit about his life, what he's kind of going through his head. Faye talks a little about herself, and even Ed talks about herself in an interesting manner. And it ends on a very kind of poetic and philosopher note. And he didn't think they'd get another renew for another 13 episodes, but they did. And he was able to continue it and end it appropriately. This series is one of this series is not the worst live action ever seen. That still goes to Death Note. And that still goes to Evolution. But you know what those two at least had? At least with the terrible Death Note one, at least they had a plot they were following, and they tried to follow it as much as they could, as much as they could. And at least with Dragon Ball Evolution, there were a couple of jokes the guy playing Goku did that actually kind of made me laugh or felt somewhat in character, even if it felt more Dragon Ball than Dragon Ball as like Dragon Ball Z. This is like a this the changes they've made to this show are absolutely terrible. There are so many moments of bad dialogue with just asinine changes to the layers of characterization that that show did so well, and in the claims of fixing it. That alone is insulting. So it may not be the worst series I've ever seen live action anime, but it is the most insulting I've have to watch. And especially when you get to episode 10 and what they changed there completely changes the dynamic between Vicious and Julia and Spike completely, and removes the entire famous scene of all its power and emotion, and it's just a flat out cartoon. It's like, especially when it comes to the jokes, quote jokes, when this show comes in. It's just absolutely, I don't know who wrote the dialogue or thought they were going to be funny. Like Spike putting up a gun to Faye's head. And it's just like, can I do it? Let me just do it. Let me just, come on, Jet. Let me just pull the trigger. Or Faye just walking in and just like, oh, hey guys, acting like very awkward and not a femme fatale at all, not even trying to act her character at all, and then changing up her sexual preference just because, hey, why not? Even though it changes the entire aspect of a later episode of why she even followed this one guy for the first point, and changes her arc retroactively. I don't even know how they're going to handle the later episodes if they ever continue with the season 2. How that's going to change that dynamic. They made her completely unlikable, along with John Cho, who is trying his hardest to try and make some comedy out of it, but it just falls flat. Every new addition they try to add to ultimately hinders or hurts the original. And that's what I mostly get out of this show. Hurt.
Huh. Well, it's interesting with the Faye character because I didn't really see Faye as really a femme fatale in it too much.
Not necessarily, but she did use her sexuality as in a beneficial way. She did use it for purpose. Whether many of the episodes before she even joins the crew, she's just in different venues, hopping jobs, using her sexuality in order to get into places that would normally kind of bar you out. And that's just small aspects of it. But she was never annoying. She may be somewhat annoying sometimes, but she was never completely annoying or busting her way in or treating herself like a girl boss, thinking she's better than everyone else around her. At least in that aspect, there was more nuance to her character.
Because I've seen the anime. I mean, Faye did that a lot. I mean, Faye would bust in.
First,
she would talk shit about men in the show.
she would on occasion.
She would do that. And then even in the live action adaptation of Faye, we talk about her using her, sexuality. I mean, there is one. I think there's some times where she is doing that, and then she's also like there was a time where she tells a story. This was also kind of a good moment. I thought this was kind of one of the good moments in kind of the series where her and Spike are kind of going back and forth about their bounty hunting stories, and then she's telling a story how she she was like dancing with this dude, and then she knocked him out, with brass knuckles. So she kind of used her sexuality there, to dance, to get close to him and dance with him, and then kind of knock him out. So there was that. As far as them, yeah, I mean, there's a scene where she sleeps with a woman in that. In the anime, there was also like she was attracted to a character, who, in the anime, where she busted in on the character in the shower, and the character had breasts.
The famous scene.
Yeah, the character had breasts, and the character also had a penis, and that was because the character went to prison, and then they gave him the character experimental drugs, and that caused the character to grow
PTSD,
to grow breasts and things like that.
And how did they fix that story? How did they fix that character? Oh, we'll make him non-binary. So in a character who went through horrible PTSD over a war and wanted revenge for what happened to him in his abandonment, and was forced to take pills that had the side effect of transforming or altering his body. It was like, oh, we're gonna fix this by just making him a non-binary character. Oh, that makes it better. That's horribly insulting to his character.
Well, in the show, if I remember correctly, I think they did say he was gay or he was asexual.
They never specified.
It was something along those lines that he may have been something like that. That he may have been maybe there, but they didn't really clearly state that. But I mean, it's kind of maybe hinted towards that he may have been that in the show. Yeah. So with that, yeah. So they do make kind of some of those changes, like you said, from the anime. Which again, I was never looking at this to be a good direct adaptation of the anime. Because I appreciate it's like, hey,
No,
you want to do your own thing, and you want to go off and do your thing. Do your thing.
I just
Okay.
wanted to be competent.
The stuff I kind of did appreciate a little bit was the whole backstory stuff. Because in this show they delve more into Vicious and Julia more than they ever did in the anime. As far as Vicious, who is Spike Spiegel's like main rival from his days of when he was in the Syndicate, so they even do a whole episode dedicated to when him and Spike were together in the Syndicate, which is kind of one of the better episodes I think of the show. And the only issue I kind of had with the stuff they did with Vicious, I like the whole them kind of going more into the background. The only issue I had, I don't think the actor who plays Vicious is that good. I think
He's really bad.
I think he's playing it way over the top. I mean, Vicious in the show was a psychopath. I mean, he was very kind of much, yeah, like a very much of a psychopath and crazy at times. But I mean, the actor here is just playing it way over the top. Do you have the name of the actor who played Vicious?
Yeah, it's like Alex. Give me a second. Alex Hessel.
Yeah. I mean, the look of him. I mean, first of all, he looks like Jason Isaac, who was Draco Malfoy's dad.
Oh yeah, he
You
really
know,
did.
that also kind of threw me off there. Javon Good in the chat, he said, "Yeah, actually, I would have had an issue if they made Vicious like he was in the anime because he had no emotion." Yeah, I mean, he was kind of just just kind of like main bad guy type stuff, for the anime.
It's not that he had no emotion in those scenes. He showed a cold exterior, but if you looked at his mannerisms and in his eye movements, he was just seething with emotion. He just didn't want to show off that weakness. The guy was a complete psychopath. But there's a lot of subtlety that if you actually watch it, you'll see. That's a big part of this show that unfortunately they don't. They do not capture subtlety at all.
Yeah.
And they go for extremes on every measure to the point where this show was almost a foolhardy right from the get-go. Because you're taking a classic series, one of the most classic animes of all time, we're going to turn it into a live action. No matter what you do, no matter how good you are or at what you're going to do here, you're just going to retread the same story and territory that the original does, that anyone can still go and watch, and that's the one they'll remember. I don't even know why they even bothered with this, and especially in the manner they did this, because it just made the show worse and made it feel worse. They don't have the budget for the show kind of like this. So why didn't they just make a small side series that had nothing to do, make their own characters, and just put it in the Cowboy Bebop universe? Do something else. Do something different.
Yeah. That's what kind of when I was talking about with Nick. I mean, I was saying like, what if you just did like Fargo, where the Fargo TV show, where
we talked about it last time. We were with Nick. I
Yeah.
mentioned that too.
Yeah. If you just did some, I would have kind of much preferred that. And if you can still keep the title of Cowboy Bebop, but have totally new characters and
Exactly.
it's not attached to anything that you could
Tell a much smaller story.
Yeah, yeah, very much. And yeah, I think the whole stuff with Kevin Vicious. I like that kind of stuff with him kind of going more into the backstory with him and Julia. But the actor Vicious, like I said, is not that good. I think they do way over the top with him, and a lot of his stuff is not the acting wise is not all that good. Stuff with Julia, the actress who plays her, I don't think she's all that strong either. I think she's very weak.
She's not.
I think she's maybe one of the weakest actors in the whole show. And Julia in the anime, she was just kind of a something for Spike to chase. You know what I mean?
That's a little pushing over. That's not exactly. Julia is, when you talk about Spike's character, Julia is paramount in his characterization. Not only Vicious is a mirror to him. Vicious is like, if I stayed in that organization, if I didn't meet Julia and I didn't wake up from that kind of a dream of a life, I would have become just like Vicious. Julia is ultimately his humanity and allows him to kind of see that aspect of himself. And she's also an excellent marker on how he is the kind of person he is right now because she he dies, metaphorically speaking, and it was because of her. He dies from that old life and he's kind of wandering. He doesn't know what to do next. And then he keeps running from it. The whole point of the whole show is that each character was dealing with some form of loss or depression, or they were just lost in their lives. Jet, after being on the force, had a bad case and he lost his ex-wife and he doesn't know what to do next. So he started a bounty hunter to get away, to get outside of the law. But he's coping with it with his bonsai tree and not confronting what actually degraded his relationship with the woman he loved and his partner and what happened then in his arm. That's why he won't replace his arm because he wants to remember, but he's still running from it. He's like, Faye doesn't remember her past, is constantly trying to remember what's happening and what happened to her. Spike running from his past is like in the mafia and the what happened to his eye. But every time he wakes up, it always focuses on that eye. He can never escape that aspect until he has to confront it. Even Ed is running from their own as like their own past or running away from their own home and doesn't know what to do. But Ed's the only one at a certain point is the earliest one to figure out that they just decide to wander. They're just going to figure themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you see how when you talked about Julia, you just kept bringing up Spike. I mean, you kept just saying like, well, you know, she's his humanity, and you know, she's that thing,
It's
and
supposed to be vague. It's art.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna argue on that. Whatever. But they didn't add anything new. They didn't
well,
do anything better. That's the whole point. It's
well, I
not like
think
they added something new or better.
I think they give more of a voice to Julia than they did more in the anime. I will say. I think they give more of a voice to her and kind of show more of
Okay.
her and give more of a voice to her.
Fair enough. Sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that I mean, Javon Good, he made a point. He said like he's saying that not comparing it to the anime, he thinks it's fine. Comparing it to the anime, yeah, it's bad. I think as a show itself, it's also kind of not that good. I think
No.
it's not that strong.
Even
So
by itself.
even by itself, it's not that good. I think if you were to kind of show this to somebody and go like, hey, you know what I mean, this is based on this, or you can watch this animated version of this. I don't think it may turn people on to it all that much because I think this is kind of very weak. Is it the worst thing like I said, worst thing I've ever seen? No, it's not. But I think there's a
No.
lot more bad than there's good, and it kind of drags it down. Um, and I think there's some kind of good bright spots in here. Like I said, I like the episode where they kind of show the backstory of the Syndicate. The
Hmm.
episode where they were stuck, like Spike Spiegel was stuck in the virtual kind of reality thing. I thought that was kind of a good episode. That was pretty decent there. And there's some things that it's just like, okay, it works in the anime, it may not work in the show. Like when they introduce Ed, Ed is such a perfect anime character. It's like, you know what I mean? The way she acts, the way she
Oh
talks,
god.
the over exaggeration, everything like that.
Yeah. You can't do that live action without making it cringe.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's just like the way they showed it in the live action show is like, yeah, it looks really bad when you try to adapt that and try to bring it into, the show. I don't know if this is going to get a second season or not. You know what I mean? I have no idea. But I'm not looking forward to a second season personally. You know what I mean? But this was kind of a situation like, listen, you're basing it off of one of the most popular animes of all time. You're gonna have a lot against you. You're not gonna try to. I mean, Cowboy Bebop, you get, I mean, it's tough because you got a
Yeah.
lot kind of going against you. Well, and I like I said, I think there's some kind of some okay things. I like the cast. I think they kind of work well together. Some of the jokes I think kind of work. I think when Jet and Spike are talking, I think some of the stuff they say back and forth is good with each other. I think that the music, of course, I mean, hey, it's the music, it's the soundtrack, it still slaps, it's still really great. That's really great. I think the look of the show, it's just some of the colors are just too bright. It's just too
Hmm.
popping. It's like some of the
A
like
little too candy esque.
yeah, I think a lot of thing about the show, the anime was that it was kind of just this dark kind of not dark. I'm sorry, more like kind of this neo
It's a
noir,
noir.
yeah,
Yeah,
kind of
very just
style
it
style.
mellowed the colors. The colors are still bright, but it had a nice kind of like almost a mellowed filter, like it kind of had a grain on it, where it just kind of diluted the colors just a bit.
Yeah, I think this is just too bright. Like the outfits they wear, like his blue and like Spike's suit is just it's just too blue, and like the future it just showed it's kind of like it's a dirty future. It's like this grungy kind of dirty kind of look to things, and I appreciate that. This is just sometimes stuff just looks too clean and too nice.
Yeah. The only time I was ever clean or nice was when I was on a lottery plateau, or you were at like a festival or somewhere else that was a commercial and very commercialized. When you actually went to like markets or places where people lived, it was very grungy and dirty.
Yeah, and they try to kind of somewhat do that here, but it just still comes off as like too clean for me. Some of the stuff they add with, like I said, with the backstory stuff. Some of it some of it I see what they're going for, but it just doesn't. It's not executed all that well. And then the action scenes we talked about that. I think it doesn't compare to a lot of the action that you see in the anime and what they did there. If you had somebody who really fight choreography wise, who maybe knew more, of more of an expert at this kind of stuff and more of a good action director. You could have done that more. I mean, so for me, I would give it. Let's see. I'd give it maybe a light 5, low 5 out of 10 for me. What about you?
You consider it average?
I think it's average. Yeah, sure. It's average.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, taking the show completely on its own because of all its faults and just on it as just a show, it's just not very good. It's honestly bad. I would be a below a 5. It'd be a 4. But if I take in consideration what it's going up against and against the original, this thing's a 3.
3.
I have to give it a 3. After all its attempts to try to belittle the show, not listen to the people that were telling them this is a bad idea, or not. They had the creator as a goddamn consultant, and they didn't take any of his advice, and even asked them not to do the things that they did, or and even talked in an interview. He just ignores it, and he's going to distance himself. They didn't listen to me. They didn't even try to communicate with them. That shows me right there they had no interest in respecting the creative intent of that people's work. And so for that alone, I have to give it a 3. If it was just on its own, it's just a 4. I've seen worse, but with that, I have to give it a 3.
So what did the creators say they didn't listen to him on?
Well, just from the get-go, he just advised them don't do it.
Oh, well.
And then when they gave him dailies and other stuff because they have to, because he was one of the original creators, and he gave like small advice like, "I would fix here, I wouldn't do this here." None of his advice was taken. I'm not privy to what he advised, but from what I can see, yeah, they ignored a lot of probably his advice.
Well, I mean, still probably got a good check. Still probably got a good check from it, so that's pretty nice for him.
John Carpenter will tell you about it because that's the only involvement he has with every remake of his work is his hand opening up so they can give him the check before he sits back down to watch another sports game.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't listen to him, everything like that. Like, I think it would have been just smarter, just like if you just were to do your own little spin-off thing in the universe, like Fargo, something like that with different characters.
That worked.
Or if you can even pull some characters from the Cowboy Bebop world. There's other bounty hunters that get introduced in the Cowboy Bebop world.
Cowboy Bebop can just be like a coverall for the bounty hunter thing. You could even talk about. Because the end of Cowboy Bebop is also like the end of the bounty hunting system as they know it, at least the show. That's like the bounty cowboy, like the show. You just run it around. Everything's happening at the same time. There's a wide galaxy of shit that's happening. You don't have to focus just on that crew. Do something interesting and different.
Yeah. Like when we talked about when I talked about the anime, I said like, well, there's a character called like one of the Shaft, like a younger brother of the Shaft, and he.
Oh yeah, Karen the Coffin. That's a great episode.
Yeah, there was that
exploitation.
There was an episode where it was like Hakeem was also in that episode, voiced by Kareem.
Hakeem.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm not saying Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, live action play him, but I'm just saying that you could have maybe did a spinoff with that. You could have did a spinoff with there was like a Pam Grier character there.
Mm-hmm.
That you could have did one off. In the movie, there was a character like the female police
Yeah, the
officer.
female detective.
Yeah, you could have did something with her and her kind of chasing down somebody. Could have did something like that. There's some other characters you could do, in the universe, but yeah, they chose to do it, of course, with the main cast from the anime. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how we feel about Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna be getting out of here tomorrow. People, we're gonna be doing Resident Evil, Raccoon City. Dust, you sure you don't want to give your kind of thoughts on that? I know you
Yeah,
saw it.
really quickly. I could do it real quickly.
Sure.
I'll try to make this pretty short because I know people want to get on with their lives, and I understand that. Welcome to Raccoon City is basically another year, another Resident Evil movie, i.e., not done terribly well. It is a little bit closer to the actual as a canon of the show of the series, but misses a lot of it and changes things not for the better. Let's see. There's a great quote from Wikipedia. I'm sorry that Rotten Tomatoes. I'd like to go. Rotten Tomatoes gave a critical consensus of Resident Evil: Welcome to the City is an affectionately faithful adaptation that further proves its source material is ill-suited to the big screen. I take great umbrage with that comment. It's not that the subject matter cannot be done well on screen. It can if they didn't treat it like a goddamn as like a hat roulette where you just stick your hand in and pull up a character and go, Lisa Trevor is friends with uh let me pull up Claire Redfield. Uh okay, sure, let's fit that in there somehow, even though it doesn't make any sense. And Claire Redfield comes back as and is coming back to the city because and they meet uh Chris Redfield. He's not even supposed to be in that game. And he injects himself with a G virus with Burton. Okay, sure. It just feels like they just went in a hat, picked characters, and just tried to stitch a movie with all these characters from these two games. And all taking place like under one night. The first game took place on one night, sure, but months pass afterwards. If they wanted to do something that took place in Raccoon City, they could have just combined the second and the third game, but they didn't. So if you don't care about the story and you're looking for thrills and you don't want to think too hard, um, I give you can give it a watch, but honestly, you're best just watching a movie playthrough of the original game series or Dark Side Chronicles, the rail game from the Wii. That's a pretty good encapsulation of the second game. Honestly, you can just watch that and you'll have more emotion and characterization than you will from the actual movie. I give it a 5 out of 10. Honestly, it's just okay. Does nothing to help, but it is a little bit better than the W.S. Anderson movies.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to experiment with a new rating scale, like maybe like I'm trying to say tune in, tune out, something like that, and then I'm trying to come up with some ratings in between,
Yeah,
that we could probably do. Um,
I could go retro and be like, record, record for later.
Record. That's interesting. Yeah, maybe record. That'd be like what the rental, maybe.
That's like the rental. Yeah, it's like yeah, you can just like you go and old school. Just go put it in a. You can just put it in a VHS. You save it for later on a rainy day. You can just pull that out because you know what? That's like would be one of those movies where it's like I got nothing better to do. It's a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening. I got nothing better to do. I fucking just put it on. Yeah, all right.
Record. And then I maybe got to find one kind of level there. Something I'm trying to maybe have at least four, maybe something
Burn
like
it. Or fuck you should just be burn it.
burn it, delete it, burn it. That's pretty good.
Delete it or burn it. Just get it out of here.
Yeah, well, we'll work on that. See what else we can come up with. Let us know. Hey, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. What do you think about those kind of
Let us
rating?
know, Toonsies.
Yeah, Nooners is what we kind of
Nooners. There you go,
Nooners.
Nooners.
Yeah. Javon Good. So better than the previous Resident Evil movie. So it's better than all of the other previous Resident Evil movies.
It is less camp. I didn't laugh as much as I laughed in the previous ones, and just how absurd it was.
Mm.
So it depends. If you want more of a like you can't believe this is happening kind of a laugh, especially Resident Evil 2, that was hilariously bad, and everything kind of after. I would say yes, because it takes the source material a bit more seriously, but it just does it in such a way where it's also kind of like an insult to it, and it doesn't know what to do with its own source material. Doesn't do it well. So honestly, there are worse things you can watch for Halloween, which this didn't fall on.
Yeah. Um. All right. So we're gonna be getting out of here, people. Thank you, Dusk, for that review of Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon
Yeah,
City.
no problem.
Much appreciated there. So we just got done wrapping up Cowboy Bebop. We did our review of that. We did our review of Hawkeye and House of Gucci. Tomorrow we're gonna be coming to you, people. I'm gonna be giving my thoughts along with Nick. Hopefully he's back tomorrow. Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. We're gonna be giving our thoughts there. Masters of the Universe Part 2. So part 2 of the animated series on Netflix. I'm gonna be watching that. Thank you, thank you, Javon Good there for the Afternoon Delight sound bit. Thank you very much. We're also gonna do in the Beatles documentary as well.
Get back.
Get Back. I'm excited to watch that. I'm a big Beatles fan. Love the Beatles.
It's gonna be 8 hours, man.
Yeah, it's yeah. We're gonna review it in different parts there. Because I think part one is out now. Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing that, reviewing that. Also, Spencer, which is the Kristen Stewart movie about where she plays Princess Diana. I'm gonna be doing that as well tomorrow. I've been meaning to see that. I've been hearing really great things about it. Especially Kristen Stewart's performance. They say
Yeah, she does a good job.
you saw it? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, nice. So yeah, eager to watch that. So, gonna be doing all that tomorrow. Yeah. So people tune in. We're probably gonna be doing it 8:30 or 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, tomorrow. Um, Javon Good said, "Any of y'all get in those early Spider-Man viewings?" Hell no, I'm not special, so I'm not. I don't get early access to
We
stuff.
wish.
I wish. I mean, maybe I gotta. We gotta get bigger. We gotta get a much
Yeah.
bigger audience, much subscribers. All that
I'm a
good.
big Spider-Man fan. I would love it.
Yeah. But tomorrow, we might do a watch party for Spider-Man '02.
Ooh.
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Since that's a Thanksgiving movie, Thanksgiving just passed. And by the way, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Great
happy
turkey,
Thanksgiving, guys.
great Turkey Day, whatever. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving or whatever, just hey, hope you just had a good Thursday. Hope you had a good time. So all that good shit like that. Eat and had fun, all that good shit. So we kind of hope all you people did that. So maybe we'll do maybe a watch party depending on what time that we have tomorrow. We'll do Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, the first one. All right, people. We're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna play us out here, and then hopefully find somebody to raid, and we'll do that. So, hey, people, if you want to find us, check us out we're on all the social medias: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all Afternoon Tune. You just follow us there. We're also wherever you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. We are there at the Afternoon Tune. When you're on Apple Podcasts, hey, make sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps boost up the podcast, so we can be special enough to go to premieres and shit like that, to get early access to movies, screenings, all that.
Help us help you.
All that good stuff like that. And we're also on YouTube, youtube.com, The Afternoon Tune. You already know how to do all that good YouTube stuff. Like, dislike, even though you can't see the score anymore. But hey, just if you want to just, hey, come, dislike for fun, you know what I mean? And I'll get depressed looking at all the dislikes. Hey, you do that. They have fun with that.
Oh.
Do the good, comment, all that good stuff, constructive criticism. Also send us an email at theafternoontune@gmail.com if you want. Also, of course, we're streaming on Twitch, right? Twitch.tv, the afternoon tune, typically every Friday, Saturday, where we stream on Twitch. Also do some video game streams where we can throughout the week, playing all types of different variety of video games. Last time we played was Resident Evil 2 for October horror. Might as well just play it again too, since Resident Evil the movie's out right
We
now.
gotta finish it though. We gotta finish it.
Yeah,
But that'll take multiple playthroughs though. The way you're going at it.
yeah, true. Because I'm playing on one of the hardest difficulties. But hey, people, hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed listening, and don't forget to always stay
Stay
tuned.
tuned.